The Lightning lose Game 3 at home. Are they cooked? Is the series over? We break it all down coming up here on Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to another episode of Locked On Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Adam Denker. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Locked On Lightning. Just a reminder, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So the Lightning lose tonight's game 5-3. Now they are down 3-0. And it was just a very disappointing night all around. We'll break it all down. Falling flat once again. Now, we also asked the question, now that the Lightning are down 3-0, we're starting to, at least I am, we're starting to second guess maybe, is this the team we thought they were? Maybe, maybe not. And, we wrap things up by admitting something that maybe some Lightning fans may not want to care to admit, but you got to give credit where credit is due. This Panthers team is very good. Before we go into all that, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're also available on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel there. Hit that notification button so as soon as the newest episode drops, you'll be notified and you'll be able to watch or listen to it. So the Lightning, I think we could agree, had a very must-win situation coming in tonight's game. It is very hard for any team. I don't care who it is. You could put some of the best teams in NHL history in a 3-game hole, and not many of them, if any, will come out of that and come back and win the series. And I think we could agree this version of the Tampa Bay Lightning are not even really in the same weight class as some of the best teams in NHL history. I think we could agree that at this point in time. We'll get more into that in the second segment. But tonight's game was the epitome of giving you hope, and then just when you're at your highest, sweeping the carpet from underneath your feet. And that's the only way I could view it. This Lightning team, had a tough task of going out there and like we said in the last episode, going out there and really starting from square one, going out there and really trying to find new ways to win really from the get-go. It's not a situation as evolving over the course of a game. It's kind of almost trying to figure out what to do to not replicate basically everything that you have done up until this point in time in a series. And some people have been saying, whether it be on the comments section or even on Twitter, I've been seeing a lot of Lightning fans coming out and saying that this team got complacent, this team's not hungry, yada, yada, yada. And I don't want to get into that state of mind just yet. And I think regardless of the results that we saw from tonight's game and some of the sequences of play from this Lightning team, I still think it's a very premature thing to go out and say that this team's not hungry. This team has been complacent. I wouldn't say that, because I will say the thing that really, the positive, because you always got to take positives out of even a loss. You always got to look back on it and say whether it's the last game of the season or game one of the season, you always got to look back on it and say, what did this team do right tonight? And when I look at this game, and the only thing that really the Lightning can hang their head on was scoring those 2 goals to take a lead, the first lead of the series. And that was a big moment. That was a moment where really the game was in their favor. Everything was going their way. I said it on Twitter that this was the first time all series that we have seen the ice tip in favor of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And as fast as it happened, it took equally as fast for the Florida Panthers to come back and tie the game and then take the lead. And it's one of those things, and we'll talk about this over the next couple of segments of today's show, where you could sit here and be mad at it, about it, and have a very good reasoning for it. But you could also sit here and not be mad of it and give credit where credit is due. I mean, you're really, like I said, this will be a topic of conversation on today's show quite extensively, and also really over the course of the offseason, barring some catastrophic comeback from the Tampa Bay Lightning. Because let's be honest here, people, and I try to be as positive as possible, as humanly possible, when it comes to this Lightning team, even when they're playing bad. But what we have seen in the first 3 games of this series has not been really any positive, except for tonight's game, the second period, where they scored that go-ahead goal. Tyler Mott, phenomenal shot through traffic. And they just don't have the personnel to keep up. But the one thing that stuck out to me in this game and in the other games as well, majority of the Lightning's goals, for the most part, there was a few that were in other locations, but a majority of the goals were up high on Bobrovsky. Now, my question is, why aren't they peppering him? I mean, we know why. They can't control the puck to save their lives. But at the same time, a lot of your shot attempts, clearly have kind of been going from the chest down on Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky has, I think, proven extensively at this point that he is very solid down low. There's nothing really getting through his pads. And, there was one shot tonight that rang off the crossbar. I think it was off Paul. I could be wrong on that. Or it was Esamon. I know it was that line. But what I'm trying to say is that, there are certain trends. There was signs there for the Lightning to take advantage of certain opportunities or advantages that were given to them, and they just haven't capitalized on them. And on the other side of that has just been the dreadful power play. And that coupled along with Kucherov just completely disappearing off the face of the earth has really been the issue for this Lightning team in these first 3 games. But the thing that really comes to the surface now, as I have, if you've been a listener all year, you know this quite well, is I have warned for the entire year that, yes, Kuch is playing phenomenal, especially early on. And it is great to see your star players perform. But at the same time, eventually, that well is going to run dry. And eventually, you are going to need help from your depth, from your bottom 6, from your defensemen. And we have not seen that whatsoever in this series. And they even said it on the broadcast at the end of the game. I think there was like a minute or so left. I think it was the Lorentz goal that pretty much sealed the deal there. You're basically unbeatable when your bottom 4, your fourth line and your depth are scoring. You're basically unbeatable. We saw it. We have 2 cups and 3 finals appearances to prove it. You don't have that this year. You have less than that, less than mediocre on the Lightning side. And all that we have seen from the things that I've already listed, from Kucherov not showing up, from the power play just completely just being ineffective, to the puck possession just being dreadful, especially in the neutral zone, the Lightning have barely been able to get a clean zone entry. And even when they try to chip and run, it's basically you're just giving the puck over. You're just saying, here you go. We know we don't have the confidence. And with all of that, that doesn't just show me that this team has been playing sloppy, that this team is just not as good as the Florida Panthers. It shows me that there are a lot of holes on this team that we kind of almost looked over because of how they played in March and in April. And that is one of the positives from this series, because if the Lightning do indeed get swept, which the way this team is playing, there's really not anything that is preventing me from thinking otherwise. It is going to really be an interesting offseason for Julien Brisebois, sitting down, trying to figure out what in God's name is he going to do with this roster, because I've complained about it numerous times on this show that, yes, you want to lock up your guys that are solid for long term. Absolutely. I'm all for it. But you don't have the cap space. If you want to extend these guys, if you want to give them 3, 4, 5 more years on somewhat of a friendly salary, that's fine. And if they don't want that, all right, we'll look somewhere else. We have to. But at the same time, you're handcuffing yourself. And that's what Julien Brisebois has done over the last couple of years, giving long-term deals, like I said, to guys that completely deserve it. The Anthony Cirellis, the Nick Pauls, the Mikhail Sergachevs, those guys completely deserve the deals that were given to them. But at what cost? To have Lilleberg, to have Calvin DeHaan, to figure out what to do at Boulay, to have Nick Pervix, to roll out Maxwell Crozier and try and say, yeah, that's going to give us an edge. Guy playing his first NHL game in the playoffs. To have Mitchell Chaffee out there, that's not a recipe for success. Yeah, it may have worked in the regular season, but as we all know, this is a totally different ballgame. One that the Lightning are ill-equipped to play. So let me know in the comments below. Thoughts, feelings, air it out. This is the Lightning, Locked On Lightning Feelings Hour here on our YouTube channel, on our social media channel. Go ahead, hit us up in the comment section below on our YouTube channel below this video. Hit us up on our social media pages, LO_Lightning on Twitter, as well as LockedOn_Lightning on Instagram. If you want to reach out to me personally, tweet to me, go ahead. I'm at DankyDank, DENK8NK. We're going to continue talking about this. I mean, it was, like I said, I mean, it was a very, very lopsided game, and the score was very misrepresenting of what actually occurred out there on the ice for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So coming up, we're going to talk about, clearly this team is not what we expected them to be in the playoffs, as opposed to what we saw in March and then April. And we'll kind of graze around the whole conversation of what fans have been talking about online. Hunger, complacency. Does that play a role? Is that a realistic thing that is happening? We'll talk about that in just a little bit. But first, we're going to talk about one of our sponsors on today's show, and that is our friends over at Monopoly Go. Now, listen up, people. I've been told I'm a competitive person. Now, well, I have a competitive side. We all do. But my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. I said it 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. But the best part is messing with your friends. You could charge them rent on iconic properties, just like classic Monopoly, but you could also heist their vaults of riches for yourself, and the leaderboards show you where the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just your competitive side that loves it. You could team up with your friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments to earn huge rewards. So get in on the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. So as always, I want to thank you all for making us your first listen of the day. If you haven't already done so, please go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Give us a follow wherever podcasts are distributed in audio form. We're also available on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel there. Hit us up on our social media pages, LO_Lightning on Twitter, as well as LockedOn_Lightning on Instagram. So I am recording this very shortly after the game. It is 10:36 p.m. And I've had about an hour to kind of mentally digest what transpired tonight. And the thing that really bothers me from this game, and I said it before and I'll say it again, I'm not the kind of person, I try not to be, especially I try not to have my feelings and raw emotions dictate how I say this or feel about this. I'll start off by saying I firmly believe that every player on this team is a competitor. They come out every single game to try and win. Now, once the game starts, I think it's a whole different story. What I feel like, and what we have seen pretty much throughout the last 82 games before coming into this series, is that this Lightning team, some nights they feel it, sometimes they don't. But the thing that sticks out to me throughout the course of this series, the thing is urgency early on. And I said it quite a bit in the last episode. If you want to go back and take a listen, I spoke about the need for urgency early on. Play like your playoff lives or your lives depend on it, because really you play like this 2 more times and you're on vacation till October. And I get it, guys get down, things aren't going their way. And I try to believe in these guys. I try to believe that they're going to go out there and do what they can throughout the course of the game, give it 100% on every shift. But in the first and towards the second and majority of the third, and then they showed compilations throughout the course of the game of Kucherov and then shots of the bench. When I talk about this Lightning team not being the team I thought they were or we thought they were, I don't mean so much as talent. I don't mean as much as performance. I mean as much as resilience. And I have not really seen that this series. I really have not. And that has been really the most disappointing thing. We saw a team flying high in the second period. Like I said, 2 straight goals, take a 2-1 lead. Everything's looking great. You're skidding around with a ton of confidence, and you look like the game is completely come to your side and tip the ice on your side. And that's absolutely what happened. But my issue that lies with that, what happened shortly after with Florida going in and just pretty much saying, all right, it's our turn. And that's basically what they did. They scored 2 in a row, and you go into the third period with a 1-goal lead. And that's where I have an issue, because what we have seen all season long for the most part inconsistently, let me add, as well as in this series, is resiliency. Is this Lightning team so quick, and this is something that I have not really feel like I've spoken about quite a bit because we haven't really seen it at this magnitude. But this Lightning team has been so quick to roll over in this series that it was really shocking and disturbing to see throughout the course of this game. Especially when the minute things don't go your way. And the fact that the only thing that saved this Lightning team was an intermission out of the first period. I mean, if this was continuous time, if we were just playing continuous hockey for 60 minutes, what could have possibly have been the score? What would have been the margin of victory for the Florida Panthers? It definitely wouldn't have been what we saw, what was the final outcome. Wouldn't have been 5-3. Could have been 8-0. And that's where I have the issue. And the whole image that we are going to take away from this series as people who watch this team on a nightly basis is going to be Nikita Kucherov skating off the ice or skating around the ice, poor on his luck, feeling sorry for himself. I get it. He was been bottled up the entire series, but great players, like I said on the last episode, great players find ways to be successful and propel their team. When things don't go right, I always compare it to the other players in the league like I did last night. When things don't go right for Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon, do we see that body language out of them? Do we see that oh, woe is me attitude that we saw from Nikita Kucherov? We don't. And I get it. Kuch isn't really a vocal guy. He's not, that's more kind of Stamkos's his realm and Hedman's realm. Those are the guys that kind of are just more so the vocal leaders, and Kuch is more of a on the ice performance kind of guy. I get it. But you can't have that on some of the biggest stages. And that's been something that has really troubled me over the last couple of years with Kuch. And kind of, I'm sure it'll be talked about this offseason. I mean, the other incident that comes to mind is 2022 against the Colorado Avalanche. Last shift of that game, the guy's completely losing his mind. And just, it's not a good look for him, and breaking his stick and all that, and then that's not what great players do. That's not what great leaders do, and really, Kuch is a leader on this team. And when other guys see that, when they see that attitude, they follow suit. That's just how it is. We can't have that. And I love some of the comebacks that we saw this year for them. I really did. I loved how they played in the second period up until Florida started to come back. Love those sequences. Not Sorelli, Stamkos, and because the Sorelli goal was disallowed. Stamkos and then Mott, phenomenal series, and then the preceding the next 4 minutes, maybe less, till Florida started to come back. That was great. That's the best hockey we've seen them play since March. Which makes me believe or start to gravitate towards the realm of complacency. And once you kind of don't get things going off the bat, it's really damn hard to get it going, whether it be at the beginning of a game or in the middle of a series. So let me know. I mean, are you shocked? I know we're not all shocked by how this team has played and how poorly they've matched up to Florida. But at the same time, I mean, the body language on this team and Kucherov as well. Everyone except really Vasilevsky has just really disappointed me to a certain extent. I mean, except Stamkos has played phenomenal, and Point has kind of played well also. But other than that, I mean, it's no bueno across the board, people. And it's very concerning. And it's going to raise a lot of questions going into this summer. So let me know in the comments below. And coming up in just a little bit, as poorly as the Lightning have played, we got to give credit where credit is due. The Panthers are a best team, are not best team. They're a great team. We talk about matchup issues. We talk about just, it's, even though it's all on the Lightning, it's not all on the Lightning. We talk about that coming up in just a little bit. But first, we'll talk about our last sponsor of today's show, and that is our friends over at Indeed. Now, Indeed is the hiring platform where you could attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you could do it all with Indeed. Hate waiting. Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job. With Indeed, matching as soon as you sponsor a post, you get a short list of quality candidates whose resume on Indeed match your job description. Boom, it's hiring at warp speed. So Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, and you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms apply. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. So one last time, I want to thank you all for tuning in after this very disappointing Game 3 loss at home. Lightning have lost 5 straight games at home in the playoffs. Coming into this game now make it 6. A 5-3 loss. I mean, I guess the only other positive we could take from this is the shots on goal went higher. It's 29 as opposed to 19. So it's the little victories, I guess. But as bad as it has gone for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I will sit here and be brutally honest and say and applaud the Florida Panthers thus far. The series isn't over. I mean, everything could change in Game 4. It absolutely can. It's not nearly impossible for the Lightning to come back, but it's going to really take leaps and bounds for this team to get back on the right track. And on the other side of that, Florida's been absolutely rolling. I mean, I look at a team, and I spoke about it coming into this series, that I acknowledge Florida's a good team. They have the lineup. I text back and forth with Locked On Panthers host Armando Velez almost on a daily basis. I talk about him. I talk to him about how good this team is, and really it all depends on the Lightning. If we see that level of play, like I said on the crossover, if we saw the level of play from March, this series, it's a whole different series, but we didn't see that. And on top of that, Florida's goaltender got hot really quick. Sergei Bobrovsky has been really phenomenal. I said on the last episode, if Florida goes all the way to Stanley Cup final and they win, Bobrovsky is a no doubt winner for the Conn Smythe. And I look at this team and I look at really no weaknesses. I look at a team that from the get-go knows exactly who they are, knows exactly what they need to do, and knows exactly how to go about doing it. And that's what really separates the Lightning and the Florida Panthers. And on top of that, the Panthers know how to beat the Lightning. They have demonstrated that from Game 1, from the initial puck drop to the final buzzer of tonight's game. And they know they're a big team. They know they could throw their weight around. And they know that it's very easy to discombobulate the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they have really done that. And they know, on top of all of that, the Lightning are a very weak neutral zone possession team. And that's why I said before, I mean, really the Lightning have the amount of neutrals, the amount of zone entries, clean zone entries is very far and in between. And it's one of those things where it's not only eye-opening for the Lightning, but it also just shows how good of a team this Panthers team is. And then on top of that, just bottlenecking Kucherov. I mean, Kucherov, yes, he needs to be better. Great players find ways to be great, but right now he's not showing that. But at the same time, I mean, the Panthers have really said, all right, you're the best player. The rest of your teammates have to find a way how to win without you. And that's it. And they've done that exactly to the point. And it's one of those things where I think it's a good thing for the Lightning for the long term to have a series kind of like this. You know, last year was a little different. You kind of sleepwalk your way through the first couple of games of the series against Toronto. You start to wake up as it goes on. And then you kind of get your stereotypical Maple Leafs moment where the excitement of the series starts to get to them. The nerves start to kick in. You start to see the tide slowly but surely shift throughout the course of the series. You don't see that in this series. I look at this Florida team. They are not nervous whatsoever. They weren't nervous from game one. This is a team that knows they're good. And I've said it with the Lightning numerous times, multiple times. When good teams know they're good, when they don't feel like an underdog, when they look like a top dog, when they feel like a top dog, that's when they're most at their dangerous. And the Florida Panthers are a very, very, very dangerous team right now. If I'm any of the other teams in the Eastern Conference, I don't care how you view the Tampa Bay Lightning. You're looking at what the Florida Panthers are doing, and you see how they're playing against Nikita Kucherov, a guy who could very well win the Hart Trophy. We'll see about that, but a guy who really was one of the best players in the league, if not the best player all season long. And not only that, you see what their goaltender is doing, and Sergei Bobrovsky, what he's doing. If I'm any of the other teams that are in the Eastern Conference, I would be shaking in my boots to be playing this Florida Panthers team, or at the prospect of playing this Florida Panthers team next series. So, listen, yeah, it sucks. The Lightning are not playing well. Absolutely. It's really disappointing. It's unacceptable. But listen, you also got to give credit where credit is due. Florida Panthers are a very impressive team, and they know exactly what they want to do against the Lightning. So let me know in the comments. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk about the prospects of Game 4. Is the series over? Are they cooked? Are we going to see somewhat of a better effort out there? Is Kucherov ever going to wake up from this hibernation? Or is he already thinking about going back to Russia or going to Mexico or wherever the hell he goes in the offseason for vacation? So let me know in the comments below about that, and we'll be back tomorrow to talk more about Lightning hockey. So that's been it for this episode of Locked On Lightning, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Adam Danker. I'll talk to you in the next one.